Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. I had a super hectic week last week and finally I got some time to make some videos. So today the game we'll be talking about is one of the very high quality games from the Chinese national games. I think I talked about game last week, but this is an ongoing tournament and there's so many games to talk about, but I find this game to be just exceptional. So the black player is Mi Yuting and the white player is Wang Xinghao, both 9-dan professional. I think Mi Yuting needs no introduction. He's the inventor of flying knife joseki. But Wang Xinghao, in case you don't know him, he is currently the number one in China. I think either number one or number two, actually. He's a very young professional, 9-dan, and super strong. And his style, I don't really know. I haven't seen that many of his games. But Mi Yuting, we all know, is a very fierce fighter. So I think this is probably the game between the two best players in China right now. Okay, let's look at the game. So black approaches the bottom left corner. White doesn't answer, instead does the same to the bottom right. So black presses on top, white crawls, black extends, white keeps pushing, and black extends. All these are book moves. White pushes once again. This is a must-play move. And at this point, instead of simply responding to what white is doing, the idea for white to crawl so many times is that white can get a sente and play on the outside. Therefore, Mi Yuting doesn't want white to accomplish what his goals are. So he kicks on the bottom right, which I really liked. Because when white extends, black jumps here. If white plays the hane, this would be slightly awkward because the hane is for the influence, but our influence is facing a very solid third line stone. So there's not much to develop here, and that's the idea from Mi Yuting in this early game. So that's why in the actual game, Wang Xinghao decides to simply play the 3-space extension, completing the joseki and letting black placing a stone facing his stone over here. So I find this to be very well played by both players in terms of direction of play early game. All right, so white obviously wants to follow up with this idea of playing the tenuki here and just approaching the corner. Black responds and white simply slides into the corner, trying a more classical variation. If black responds, then obviously white will play the keima here. This forms such a beautiful formation, and this might become white's territory. So in the actual game, black pretty much doesn't answer because he can later on invade here or he can defend the corner, right? He wants to save the choice for later. Therefore, he completes the joseki on the top left. White hanes, black hanes, white extends. This is one of the josekis that I talked about in my joseki series. In case you're interested, I think it was like lecture 10 or 11. I don't quite remember. I'll try to put a link down in the description. All right, so black hanes, white atari, black connects, and white plays the atari here. Here, a common mistake for my viewers to make is to atari here, right? This looks like a very good move, but unfortunately, this doesn't really achieve as much as you think because when white pincers from here, we can see that black doesn't really have two eyes, and black kind of has to run towards the center. So it's much more practical to simply play the 3-space high extension, right? This Atari is not that important because it doesn't really disconnect white. All right, so that's the book move, and white now jumps towards here. So this is an absolutely amazing move because not only expands white, but also reduces black. We love this kind of moves. That is kind of like the expansion move for both sides. This is a must-play move. This is way bigger than, for example, if white jumps out here. Obviously, this is a very big move, but when black comes in here, or even black invades, right? I'm pretty sure someone like Mi Yuting will probably invade, but even if black plays something like this, we can see that black's moyo is a lot bigger right now, and white is only like suppressed on the side. So in the actual game, white jumps. That's a very good move. And black obviously takes the other very big move away from white. This also happens to be a sente. White has to respond in the corner. The corner, well, luckily this move is also huge, so white is not too it's not too miserable for white, right? This move has a lot of points, therefore that's a good exchange. And at this point, black now jumps towards the center. Very well played move. The idea of this move is more or less the same. Black is trying to expand himself, but also reduce white, right? It's the same idea as this move. Very well played so far by both sides. I really love this early game. Now they're into the middle game.
Hey, if you're new to this channel, I provide full commentaries on ongoing professional tournaments, epic classic games, and AI games every week. My videos are always backed by professional players' commentaries or AI analysis. Subscribe to the channel to level up your Go skills now.
Next move, Wang Xinghao plays the Keima in the center. Oh my god, this is almost the AI recommendation. So the AI recommendation is to play the Keima over here. So the idea is for white to obviously expand this moyo, but this move also serves as protecting the potential weaknesses that white has over here, but also serves as like a preparation move to invade this territory. But Wang Xinghao is just so well prepared. He's just like one line off. Like it's the same idea as AI, right? I would not have found this move at all, but maybe Wang Xinghao has memorized till this point. I wouldn't be surprised. So in the actual game, Wang Xinghao played the big Keima. Very good idea, very creative move. I really like this move. And now Mi Yuting shows his style. So this is such a fighter. So normally you would not think about something like this, right? You would probably think about I don't know exactly what black would play here, but Mi Yuting is just like, you know what? Let's go for a fight. Like, why not go for a fight? I love fighting, so let's go for it. And there's no avoiding of that. White has to fight this out. So if white pushes on top, then black is going to play out the Tsuji over here. And that's very tough to deal with. So black is looking at three things at the same time. One is the Hane on the second line connecting through. Of course, that's a lot of territory. The second one is to play the Tiger's Mouth. If you just block like this, that's not going to work because black will have this type of Tiger's Mouth to break you, right? If Mi Yuting realizes that tactically this doesn't work, he can also prepare, right? He can prepare like this and then hop out. Now we're looking at the cutting, and that's the annoying part. If white spend a move to fix this, this is a no point move, right? This is simply a connection move, but black gets a lot of value from getting out. So that's not a good variation for white. In the actual game, white can't really avoid any of that, but before white deals with that problem, white decides to peep at black first. Black connects on top, and white now blocks. Now, the difference is now white is going to resist by playing the Hane on the second line. Mi Yuting decides to counterattack. If black simply blocks, then white will extend. If black Atari and capture, yes, the corner is very comfortable, but after white extends, what are you going to do about these two guys? You probably just have to sacrifice that. So this is not what Mi Yuting wants to achieve. So when white plays the Hane, Mi Yuting realizes that, well, the best move is to counterattack. Therefore, he plays the Tiger's Mouth. White plays the Atari in the corner, and black extends towards the left side. Now we can see that black managed to break the territory over here, and black is quite thick, right? Because black got thicker, these stones are all a lot weaker than before, but obviously that comes with a huge cost because the corner is now in trouble. White, see the exchange that white did previously, now it's helping out. White managed to push down black Hanes, white Atari, and black now plays the squeeze Atari on top, strengthening the connection over here, and Mi Yuting decides to go for a counterattack. So maybe a more accurate way for black to play is to not exchange this Atari with the capture, because that loses a lot of endgame. The problem is that after you exchange this move, you really miss the tactic. You really pretty much throw this type of move away, right? Because when we play the double Atari and then flip Atari, this is a lot of points, right? This is a ko essentially. And if white has to play things like this is a lot of points. So by Ataring on top, Mi Yuting is sacrificing a lot of territory actually, right? Just to strengthen the connection and allow him to play the Keima towards the center. So this is obviously Mi Yuting's style, and I really like this play because it fits his style. He doesn't care too much about the win rate. Rather, he wants just to play the game of Go that he understands. And this is what is super important for human players, right? The fact that when I comment on professional games, I don't always use AI either. I love the professional commentaries, not necessarily people who use AI and say, hey, you lost 5% win rate here or there. If you look at Mi Yuting's play, with this type of move, Mi Yuting's win rate is very low at this point. But for a human player, this is very difficult to deal with because Mi Yuting drags you into a fight and you don't know how to deal with it and you just get destroyed. And this is typical Mi Yuting stuff. Now, of course, AI would recommend to not Atari. I'd rather just play a two-space extension. But of course, this is just not Mi Yuting stuff, and I probably wouldn't be talking about this game if he played like this. So that's why I love Mi Yuting's play. It's just crazy. Like he loves to fight no matter what. Like doesn't matter what the win rate is. Just fight, fight, fight all the way to the end. All right, so black plays the Keima, and white is not dodging the challenge. Therefore, he plays a Keima in the center. Of course, a more accurate and more boring way the AI would recommend is for white to simply play the two-space extension. The idea is that this is a huge move that secures the entire group, connecting the two stones, but also, um, well, so that does a lot. This is a lot of value. We can all see that, but the center, it's still not settled, right? There's no way for black to capture the stone in one move. If black pushes like this, and white can jump towards the center. So how are you going to catch these two guys? I'm not so sure. Right? If black plays the Keima, then white can jump a little lighter, and then it's still very. Of course, white will be under attack, but if black can't kill the two stones, how is black going to find the compensation for the corner and for the side? So this would be the AI way to play, but of course, human players, we love more interesting fighting games like these. All right, so white hops into the center, and now Mi Yuting, typical Mi Yuting stuff. This is just crazy. Like he's very direct. Like I've watched a lot of his games, and he's just like a tank. He comes in, he fights, and you get destroyed, and that's it. That's typical Mi Yuting stuff, actually. All right, so black cuts, and now we're into a very fierce fight. White extends towards the center. Black blocks the two stones. And here, Wang Xinghao played very rationally and very correctly. If Wang Xinghao decides to go for a fight in the center, that would not be a great idea, especially against someone like Mi Yuting, who's the best fighter in the world. Like he would extend out like this. White has to connect the three stones, and black now peeps at white's weakness. If white plays the Hani, black now jumps towards the center. We can see that all white's groups are cut into pieces, and white has to figure out how to save pretty much every single one of them, and there's still a threat going on over here. So that would be typical Mi Yuting's game, and it would be very difficult for white at this point. So it's very important for white to stay calm and stay rational and just Atari and sacrifice the stone. Black Hanes, white Hanes, black now extends. Here, white decides to go for a fight. Black Atari, so this cut is a Sente, so black has to respond to that. And now white plays out a Tsuji. But unfortunately, any Tsuji under the eyes of Mi Yuting seems a little bit useless because black can simply turn like this. White blocks on the third line, black extends, and here white decides to connect on top. Black now cuts in the center, so it looks like locally this is not working well for Mi Yuting, but Mi Yuting's idea is actually to sacrifice the four stones and then to gain bigger compensation in the center. Black now cuts, white connects, and black now plays the peep in the center. So at this point, what AI is yelling at white to do is to Atari and just sacrifice the two stones over here, right? And I think this idea is very understandable because this is just purely points, right? The fact that black captured the two stones doesn't really hurt white's life and death over here. But if white can get these three stones out, right, that means that it can reduce black's moyo quite a bit. So that's the most important issue right now on the board. So that's why AI is yelling at white to not worry about the local win or loss. In the actual game, when black plays the peep, white didn't play that. Instead, white simply connected. That's very greedy. It's betting on the life and death of the two stones. Black pushes on top, white hanes. So here, white has to play very tight. If white just extend, here black has a very simple idea. That is just to push as many times as black needs to, right? So we can see that the idea for black is quite simple. If you ever hane, then I will cut. And because I have so many stones around me, this fight is not going to go great for white. But if white keeps extending, then black keeps pushing, we can see that black's top is becoming territory because of how thick black is. But white is facing a giant wall, so there's nothing to build over here, right? So that is black's idea. So white cannot play like that. White had to hane here and look for a fight. This is all forced. Black cuts at the tengen, white turns and now black makes the shape move. Very well played by Mi Yuting. You can see it's a very experienced fighter. We fix our weakness first. Well, in this case, it's because there's a ladder. Therefore, black plays the jump here first. You don't want to play any moves like this because it only strengthens your opponent, right? And it doesn't really fix all your weaknesses. So it's better to play a clean move that is the jump in the center. Fix our weakness first and then worry about your opponent's weakness later. That's a typical principle in middle game fighting. All right, so white plays the Atari, black captures, and now white extends in the center. Here, black plays out the Kosumi, and this pretty much claims that these 4 stones are kind of dead, right? Because there's so many stones around it. So at this point, white has to go for a counterattack on top to get the compensation back. Black decides to fight this out. White attaches on top, looking at using the stone to kind of attack the 4 stones on the 4 stones over here. So here, Mi Yuting played a little bit soft. The correct move is not to extend, rather it's to play his style. Maybe he was reading he was reading some sort of line that I'm pretty sure he's able to read out all the lines, but maybe he had a judgment mistake when it comes to one of the lines. So when black plays the Hane, of course white will play the counterattack. This is the most worrisome counterattack that black has. But black can simply answer by Atari on top. So I'm not sure what Mi was worried about. I don't think Mi would be worried about this kind of stuff because this is not going to work. So likely it's white extend out. Black now. So at this point, maybe what black didn't see was this extension. This is a very hard to find move actually, right? Especially in this kind of fighting. So black extends, and white plays the Atari. Black connects. And now white turns on top. Here, black is not too worried about the life and death over here because black can Hane here, right? White's 3 stones are, it's a very tight group, right? Only has 2 liberties. So if white tries to run, then black can go for a counter attack in the center. I'm pretty sure this is not so hard for me to read out. So at this point, if white obviously has to fix the cut and ladder, therefore white, doesn't matter what white plays over here, black is going to push. If white Atari, black in Atari, Atari, and ladder the entire group in the center. So this line is probably not that hard to read out, but maybe what Mi Yuting missed was really extending over here. That's a little bit counterintuitive. Yeah, so that's why Mi Yuting in the actual game, maybe he also thought that he was leading, therefore he placed the extension just to stay calm. But this gives white quite a bit of chances because now white can attach in the center. Black extends and white now Hanes. The idea is to try to cut off here and threaten the 4 stones on the left. Black now cuts in the center, white connects, and black connects in the center. So black's group over here is rock solid. All the conflicts are happening on the left side. At this point, white decides to extend out, and this is a mistake from Wang Xinghao. Of course, for us, the amateur level players, this looks like a very normal move. This is what I would have played as well. But before white plays this, white should have played the attach in the center. This move is very important. It's a asking move, right? We're trying to ask black, hey, do you want to play more aggressive or do you want to just extend, right? So if black decides to play more aggressive, then we can see that this Atari will lead to connecting the 4 stones back, right? Because black cannot connect the stone. So after we get this exchange, then we can look at what we do on top. Now, if black simply extends back, then we can probably just capture because black, this exchange is already good for us, which means that we don't have to necessarily try to kill the 4 stones over here, right? So that's a very deep idea, and it's very easy to miss, and that's exactly what happened in the actual game. White did not exchange this, and we will see the consequences a bit later, but white now decides to extend out. But of course, without any fighting skills, this would be a good move for white. But the black player is Mi Yuting, and therefore he plays correctly by clamping in the center. A very nice Tsuji, forcing white to connect, and now black pushes on top. White Hanes, black plays the bamboo, and now white plays the attach. Black extends in the center. Now here, black is because you attach really late, this is an easier moment for black to make decision. Black doesn't want to fight you right here because there's too much conflict going on over here. Therefore, black will simply extend and give you the least amount of aji possible. Now white has to come back and connect the weakness, and black plays the Keima very aggressive. I really like this move. If you play something loose, that doesn't put enough pressure on the 4 white stones. And what black played is the optimal, like maximum pressure against our opponent. White now plays the Hane. Here black cannot really push over here because black also has a weakness on the outside. Therefore, in the actual game, black plays a very beautiful move in the center to fix the cutting point. This is a sente. White obviously has to fix the weakness. And at this point, Mi Yuting plays a super hyper aggressive move. That is to play the Keima in the center. My first intuition would be just jumping in the center, but Mi Yuting just like, you know what? I want maximum profits. I don't want to just capture you smaller like this, even if this is probably safer, right? Black want absolute maximum profits. So now white has to run. Black pushes on top, and here white decides to push in the center. So AI would certainly recommend you to just push like this and sacrifice the stones in the center. But this is also a bad game for white, right? Even if white sacrificed the stones over here, we can see this is obviously a leading game for black. But this is what AI would recommend because AI is always so rational. But at this point, for a human player, that is absolutely not possible. White wants to drag out the whole thing. And now it's Mi Yuting's time to try to slay the dragon. And you know, when your opponent's Mi Yuting, it's not an easy task to live your dragon. So black now turns, white hanes, black hanes, and locally in the center, this is black kills white. White now extends, looking for eye space, and now black jumps to enclose white. White plays the tiger's mouth. We see an eye, but where's the second one? Black plays the tiger's mouth in the center. White push and cut on the outside. Black simply connects on the weaker side, and now white's job is not try to live, but rather to go for a counterattack and see if these two dragons can go into a liberty fight. Black hanes, white hanes, black extends, white plays the tiger's mouth to connect everything back. And at this point, black bumps into white. This is a sente. White has to make use of black's weakness over here and now play this move. And here black obviously can't cut. And at this point, black just needs to take care of the group over here. Black turns, white plays tiger's mouth, and black plays the attach. And at this point, white decide to resign. Now, the reason Wang Xinghao resigned over here is because the dragon is slain in the center, because black is just way too thick in the center, right? We can pretty much see, well, let's first of all look at the conflict over here, right? So here, if white tries anything to like break the eye or whatever, then black in Atari, and then Hane, we can see that this group is captured. So that's a sente, okay? So if white fixes the problem, then I think the simplest way for black to live is just to extend. We can see there's an eye here, and this eye is not really breakable. So this is black kills white, right? So can white live in here? Absolutely not, right? Like I'm pretty confident that I can kill anyone in here, even I'm not even professional. But this is not hard, I have to say, right? The reason this is not hard to kill is because you can pretty much see that black's capture is a sente because I'm trying to cut. So if you look at this exchange being, if you play out this exchange, you can see black is, this is a nuclear center. This thing has 0 weakness, and white only has like an eye over here. And how is white gonna live? There's absolutely no way, right? So not just me, I think a lot of my viewers can kill anyone in here. It's just not possible for white to live. So at this point, when Mi Yuting attaches over here, Wang Xinghao decided to resign because there's no point, especially against one of the top professionals in China. This dragon is it's a joke. Like you cannot live here. So that's it. So anyway, that's a very clean and neat dragon slaying game from Mi Yuting. I absolutely love his games. My favorite player used to be Li Seidou, but of course he retired. Then I was a big fan of Shi Yue, but I haven't heard that much. After, well, he's been the #1 player in China for like 1 year, but after that was replaced by Kejie. But right now, fortunately, we got Mi Yuting. He's a very strong fighter. I love watching his games. I don't know what you guys think. Let me know in the comment section. Anyway, we have more games coming up this week. I'll see you guys in the next one.